Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm waiting for you, all of you. Good afternoon, Shivani. Good afternoon, Prachi. Good to see you all. So let's begin with the sessions. आज का session is something very different but quite important for ALET and other law entrance exams, also for judicial services exams. Most important legislations for 2019. और 2019 में बहुत सारे ऐसे legislations पास हुए हैं पार्लियामेंट में which is very important. So let's have a look at them and let's move ahead. So we'll take a very quick snapshot of every legislations of 2019 so that anything, any nook and corner, you people know everything about it. So let's just take any part of it. We'll just move on towards it. 22 most important legislations we'll take. Good afternoon, all of you, everyone. Let's move ahead. So आज के सेशन को हम begin करते हैं. Let's move ahead. Personal Laws Amendment Act 2019. Now, Personal Laws Amendment Act 2019 से एक क्राइटेरिया था, एक ग्राउंड ऑफ डाइवोर्स था जो हमने हटाया है, एंड दैट इज लेप्रेसी एज अ ग्राउंड ऑफ डाइवोर्स. So the central government notified that the Personal Laws Amendment Act 2019 to remove leprosy as a ground of divorce. Now, to end this, it amends 5 acts. 5 acts में changes आए हैं to remove leprosy as a ground of divorce, and those are Divorce Act of 1869, Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act of 1939, and the Special Marriage Act 1954, the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, and the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956. In sub se we have removed leprosy as a ground for divorce. Okay, and this amendment bill proposed to amend the provisions of these act which prescribe leprosy as a ground for divorce. So this is one small enactment which was amendment which was passed. Let's move on to the next one, which is Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Amendment Act 2019. Though ये 2019 का amendment act है, but after NAP there's a lot of changes also which is made to it. We'll just see what was held in 2019 today. It received the assent of President on 10th January 2019. By this amendment, there shall be regular examination in 5th class and 8th class at the end of every academic year. If the child fails in the examination referred, he shall be given additional instructions and granted opportunity for re-examination within a period of 2 months. So this was what was held in the Amendment Act of 2019. No child shall be expelled from school till the completion of his or her elementary education. So this was something which was held in 2019. Let's move on to the next act, which is the National Trust for Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, CP, Mental Retardation, and Multiple Disabilities Amendment Act. My only purpose to share this amendment act with you people was so that you people understand the name of the legislation, which is originally the National Trust and Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, Mental Retardation and Multiple Disabilities Act of 1999. So original enactment is of 1999, जिसमें 2018 में we made certain changes. So I just wanted you people to know about this act, and that is why I just shared with you people. So original act जो 1999 we had, what it said was to enable persons with disability to live independently by promoting measures for protection in case of the death of their parents. Mostly in such cases, the parents are the ones who are taking care of these people, these children. Now, in case of their parents' death, what shall be and how shall they take care of themselves? The entire enactment deals with such kind of situations, involving procedures for appointment of guardians and trustees, facilitating equal opportunities in society for them. So this enactment was there of 1999, जिसमें 2018 में we made certain amendment just to streamline the appointment and resignation of members of a trust which help these people. So, just to streamline their appointment and the resignation of the members of the trust, which help peoples with difficulty with disability to live independently, we had made certain amendments in 2018. Let's move on to the next act, which is Jammu and Kashmir Reservation Amendment Act. Good afternoon, everyone. And this Reservation Amendment Act was basically because of constitutional amendment जहाँ पे हमने EWS को 10% का reservation दिया था, and similarly on basing of that Jammu and Kashmir में भी changes आए थे, and it all before the demarcation and making of it of UT. Before that this act was passed. The following act of parliament received the assent of president on 9th July 2019. An act to further amend Jammu and Kashmir Reservation Act 2004. An ordinance was also promulgated relating to this on March 1st, 2019. Now, this act provides for reservation and appointment and admissions in professional institutions for persons belonging to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and socially and educationally backward classes. Basically, as I said, for the 10% reservation जो हमने बात की है, 10% reservation for economically weaker sections in educational institutions से related, similar amendment was made in JNK. So let's move on to the next enactment, which is the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Act 2019. It's not that before this act there was no divorce of Muslim women. It was quite possible, and we had laws relating to this also. So don't worry, we'll deal one by one. The Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Act 2019. Main object: to prohibit divorce by pronouncing talaq by their husbands and to provide matters connected therewith. Basically, triple talaq se related hai. Triple talaq, when we talk about it, it's basically talaqul biddat specifically that they focus on, or talaqul bain bolte hain. And why now? Why we had this amendment now at this point of time? Because there was a Supreme Court judgment of Shaira Banu versus Union of India. So what it said was, it declared triple talaq as unconstitutional. Now, the practice of this triple talaq is basically where a person is giving his wife and saying that I'm renouncing you, or I'm giving talaq to you, I'm giving talaq to you, and he pronounces this 3 times, irrespective of when he pronounces it. In Muslims, there's a different way of giving talaq, and especially the other two forms of talaq, which is talaqul hasan or talaq hasan, they are basically when it deals with the tuhar period. So there's some lunar months in which they have to give talaq, and that is still permissible right now. We are talking about instantaneous triple talaq, which is no more permissible. Why? Because we had this judgment also, Shaira Banu versus Union of India, जिसमें Constitution Bench has declared the practice of instantaneous triple talaq as unconstitutional. Now, we had this earlier act also in place, Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986. We just repealed it in this one. Now, this Triple Talaq Act was having 8 sections, and let's see the definition of in section 2C what it said about. It defines talaq as talaq-e-biddat or any other similar form of talaq pronounced by a Muslim man resulting in instant and irrevocable divorce. Now, always remember this point: instant and irrevocable divorce. These are the two major points when we talk about talaq-e-biddat or triple talaq. So, talaq-e-biddat में two main featuring point was instant talaq, and it's an irrevocable form of talaq, where when the wife wants to reunite, or when the wife wants to come back to him, she has to exercise the thing called halala. She has to get married to another person, and then they have to consummate the marriage, and probably after that she can get back to her original husband. So that is why it is an irrevocable divorce, irrevocable form of divorce. It's very difficult to get back to it. Triple talaq has been questioned in ALIT also last year. So it always is an important point. We should know everything about it. Let's see section 3 first of triple talaq. Talaq to be void and illegal. Now what is this? Any pronouncement of talaq made by a Muslim husband upon his wife by words, either spoken, written, or in electronic form. So, even in social media, yes, even if he declares it on social media, so that could also be a form of talaq, or any other matter whatsoever shall be void and be illegal, right? So, this is section 3 that we are talking about. Now, let's move to section 4. Punishment for pronouncing talaq. This one has been asked in ELET, yes, which may extend to 3 years. A Muslim husband who may pronounce talaq referred to in section 3 upon his wife shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 years. So this is important for us. Section 6 may. What have they said? It lays down that a married Muslim woman shall be entitled to custody of her minor child in the event of pronouncement of talaq by a husband. So it deals with cases where basically she wants custody of her child. So section 6 deals with custody of her minor children. Along with that, it also talks about compounding of offenses. Now, what is compounding of offenses? So compounding of offenses can be done when the person against who's the victim says, okay, it's okay, let's settle the issue, and so when the victim agrees to it, then only compounding of offenses is possible. Otherwise, there's a long list of offenses which can be compounded, which cannot be compounded in 320 of CRPC. We are not going into that. So we're just saying what is compounding of offenses. The offenses may be compounded by the magistrate upon request of the woman against whom has the talaq been declared. It's very important this way. Why? Because compounding can be done only upon request with the magistrate, and if he says so, then only compounding is possible. Now, where two sides agree to stop the legal proceedings and settle the dispute, then only compounding is possible. The terms and conditions of compounding of the offense shall be determined by the magistrate. Magistrate will decide what will be the terms of compounding and all. Now, the Act provides that magistrate may grant bail to the accused. So ऐसे cases में जहाँ पे already talaq has been pronounced and there is a husband who wants bail on the matter, he doesn't want to get punished. So can he get bail? The question is this: yes, he can get bail, but only after the bail may be granted only after hearing the woman against whom talaq has been pronounced. So bail can be granted in such cases only after when the woman grants it and the woman allows it. Okay, fine. The bail may be granted only after the hearing of the woman is done. So once the woman is being heard in the court of magistrate and she says, okay, and whatever the judge decides on it on that basis, then only the bail can be given to the accused. Now, the Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act 1939 deals with situation in which Muslim women in India can obtain divorce. So ऐसा नहीं है कि this triple talaq is the only one. We had this law and this law is still valid and is in place. Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act 1939 is still in place. They can obtain divorce through this as well. Now, two important things that I wanted to share with you people was Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986 का ये एक act था and it was upheld constitutionally valid in this case, Daniel Latifi versus Union of India. So in this case, this particular enactment was held valid, constitutionally valid, and it was the act was upheld, and the act said that it does not violate Article 14, 15, and 21. So this is just little bit more of legal GK from the past that I wanted to share with you people. And इसमें एक section और है, section 5, which deals with subsistence allowance. That you can just see, not much important, but you can just see what is subsistence allowance. ये एक और चीज है. Let's move on to the next act. Right to Information Amendment Act 2019. Now, what is this act all about? We have also seen many judgments this year relating to right to information. Which case was it? Anyone who remember it? CGI's authority and RTI. Waiting for the answers. If anyone could give me. Now let's move on to the Right to Information Amendment Act 2019. The object was to provide wider powers to central government to decide the tenure, salaries of CICs and information commissions. Now what happened was, before this enactment, before this amendment, basically, before this amendment, everything, whether it's salary, whether it's tenure, everything was determined by, uh, and it was written. But after this amendment, all such things is taken under the control of central government. So now everything is determined by central government, whether it's their salaries, whether it's their anything is determined by central government. So basically, in 2005, let's see this, the CICs and Information Commissions at central and state level will hold a term of 5 years. Now, after the amendment, the act removes the provision and states that the central government will notify कि term क्या होगा. So, central government will notify the term of the office of CICs. Post this, RTI Amendment 2019 में और क्या changes आए? The Act removes these provision and states that the salaries, the allowances, and every other thing, the salaries, the allowances, and other terms and conditions of service of central and state CICs will be determined by central government, basically giving wider powers to central government post this amendment. So this is what we have done. Now let's move on to the next act. Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. Most of you have already heard about it, listened about it. Very good. Somebody gave me an answer. I'm happy. Now, the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019, the Constitution, Jammu and Kashmir Scheduled Caste Order 1956. Please remember this, the Scheduled Caste Order 1956 and the Scheduled Tribes Order 1986 shall continue to apply to UTs of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. It is still valid. Now, the administration of Jammu and Kashmir. इससे पहले there was certain changes, but before that, let me just tell you the 2020 update. The administration of Jammu and Kashmir has notified the Jammu and Kashmir grant of domicile certificate procedure rules. जहाँ पे उन्होंने they have very clearly said that who shall be given the domicile of JNK. Now, there are two things that they have said, and they are giving certificates, domicile certificates, basing upon that. Now, under which is defined domicile. Now, what is a domicile according to them? Any person who has resided 15 years under the UT, now UT of JNK, or has studied, now see this, or has studied for 7 years and appeared in class 10th and 12th examination from there. So here it is, has studied for 7 years and है यहाँ पे, had studied for 7 years and appeared in class 10th and 12th examination in an educational institution located under UT of Jammu and Kashmir. So this is what they have said. These are the people to whom they are granting domicile certificates easily. Now, over 4 lakh people in Jammu and Kashmir has been issued domicile certificates till date. Jammu and Kashmir reorganization order would allow citizens from other states to become permanent residents of the UT of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, central government posted this on this latest gazette of 31st March 2020. So these rules were notified on this date, and they said that now even anyone who is not belonging to the state but is fulfilling these two criteria, which is 15 years have been residing there or has studied for 7 years, along with appearing in class 10th and 12th from any of those educational institutions which is in Jammu and Kashmir. So these can also be now granted domicile certificates. Earlier we had Article 370 because we reserved it, and us tarah se we used to decide the permanent residence. Now we are deciding on the basis of domicile. Let's see the act. So Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, main object was to provide reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir into UT of Jammu and Kashmir and UT of Ladakh. Now this act itself consists of 14 parts, 103 sections and 5 schedules. Don't worry, we don't have to read everything in it. I'm just highlighting certain things. and the act reorganizes the state of Jammu and Kashmir into UT of Jammu and Kashmir with a legislature. So UT of Jammu and Kashmir is there with a legislature, and the UT of Ladakh without a legislature. Now the UT of Ladakh will comprise of Leh and Kargil districts, and the UT of Jammu and Kashmir will comprise the remaining territories existing in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Reason for the amendment, let's not go into it. Most of us already know. Let's move on here. The act was passed after revocation of Jammu and Kashmir's special status by way of Constitution application of Jammu and Kashmir Order 2019. We all know how the act was passed. The High Court of Jammu and Kashmir is now the common High Court for UT of Jammu and Kashmir. So High Court kahan hua? UT of Jammu and Kashmir and UT of Ladakh ka, it is still in High Court of Jammu and Kashmir. Judges of J&K High Court for the existing state of J&K. Already there were judges in the High Court of Jammu and Kashmir, right? So these judges are immediately before the appointed date shall be deemed to have been appointed under Article 217 of Constitution of India, and they shall be deemed to have taken oath under Article 219 of Constitution of India, and shall continue to function as judges of Common High Court of UT of Jammu and Kashmir and UT of Ladakh. So this is how we are going to do it. Now what we'll see is very simple two things which was left to tell you, and that was 5 seats have been allotted to UT of Jammu and Kashmir and 1 seat to UT of Ladakh in House of the People. So in House of the People we have 5 seats for J&K and 1 seat for Rajya Sabha, for Ladakh. So this is how it is. Now 4 seats have been allotted to UT of Jammu and Kashmir in Council of States of Rajya Sabha. So this is what I'm going to tell you. 4 seats here. Now the provisions of Article 239A. Article 239A is applicable to UT of Puducherry, are now also applicable to UT of Jammu and Kashmir. 239A basically deals with how a legislature should function. तो सिर्फ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर में इसलिए applicable है ये because legislature Jammu and Kashmir में है, UT of Ladakh में there is no legislature, so this article is now applicable to UT of Jammu and Kashmir also. Let's move on to the next act. Very interesting act. You must be knowing about it, but let's just have a quick glance over it. This is Unlawful Activities and Prevention Amendment Act 2019. So Unlawful Activities Prevention Amendment Act. इस एक्ट को अमेंड करने का मेजर रीजन व्हाट वाज देयर वाज previous to this amendment we could declare only organizations or groups as terrorist, but after the amendment we can also declare single person as a terrorist. So this is the major reason for this amendment. And original act was of 1967. The original act was of 1967, and last year we included a provision in 2019 to designate even an individual now can be declared as a terrorist. Prior to this, only organizations were to be declared as a terrorist. After the amendment, even individuals can be declared as a terrorist. So let's move on to this act, Unlawful Activities Prevention of Amendment Act, to provide National Investigation Agency more powers. We wanted to give them more powers, and definitely many changes we did in it. So the original enactment was of the year 1967. The Act provides special procedures to deal with terrorist activities, among other things. Under the Act, central government may designate an organization as terrorist organization if, just look at this, if it commits or participates in acts of terrorism, prepares for terrorism, promotes terrorism, or is otherwise involved in terrorism. The reason for the amendment was NIA was facing difficulties in the process of investigation and prosecution of terrorism related cases. With a view to overcome such difficulties, the NIA has been given a lot of investigation and powers, and those powers have to be aligned with the domestic law, right? So that is why we made certain amendments. Also relating to the other several conventions to which India is a party. Now, just after making this amendment, we made four people as and declared them as terrorists. These four people. In fact, in 2020 also we declared 9 people as terrorists. Post this amendment act, you can read who were they. I'll not just take the names also. So these were the 4 people who were individually as declared as terrorists. Let's move on to the next act, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Amendment Act 2019. बहुत सारे changes आए थे Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act में. If you have any doubt relating to it, you can just go and see the December month legal GK. We have discussed it at length. Still, I'm just discussing a little bit of it right now for you people. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Act 2019. Now, what is insolvency and what is bankruptcy? I've shared very nicely with you people in that month's discussion, so I'll not go into that. And what is resolution plan? It may include provisions for restructuring of a corporate debtor, including by way of merger, amalgamation or a demerger. Now, insolvency and bankruptcy court में बहुत सारे changes आए. Major change was that NCLT was given more powers, which is National Company Law Tribunal, has been given more powers after the amendment. NCLT has been given with more powers, and NCLT may accept or reject any application which they deem fit regarding insolvency. Now, the Amendment Act 2019 states that in the NCLT does not find existence of default and has not passed any order within 14 days, it must record its reasons for the same. Also, we have dealt with the new Amendment Act जो 2020 में आया, and that also we have dealt in detail in the December month, so you can go and have a look at it. Resolution process must be completed within 330 days. Just remember this point, that the resolution process must be completed within 330 days. Earlier it was 180 days, extendable up to 90 days. Now it's 330 days. The Protection of Human Rights Amendment Act 2019. The act was to provide for a change in composition of National Human Rights Commission and State Human Rights Commission to reduce the term of office. Original enactment is of 1993. Don't forget this. The original enactment of NH National is of 1993. Let's have a look at this. Very important. Earlier, we used to have that the chairperson of NHRC is a person who has been a Chief Justice of Supreme Court. Now, any judge of Supreme Court, not necessarily he has to be a person who has hold the position of Chief Justice, but any judge of Supreme Court can become a chairperson of NHRC. Very important point. So anyone who's going through it, just remember this. The Act provides for 2 persons having knowledge of human rights to be appointed as members of NHRC. Previously, 2 persons. Now, we have 3 members. So, the Act amends to allow 3 members to be appointed, as at least one will be a woman. So, remember this. Now, it's 3 in which at least one would be a woman. Under the Act, chairperson of various commissions such as National Commission for Scheduled Caste, Commission for Scheduled Tribe, and National Commission for Women are the members of NHRC. Now, with the amendment, we have included some other commissions as well, and they are National Commission of Backward Classes, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, which is NCP. CR, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and the Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities as members of NHRC. So we just need to remember this. Under the Act, the chairperson of HCRC is a person who has been a Chief Justice of High Court. Similar, just like Supreme Court, the Act amends this to provide that any person who has been Chief Justice or even a Judge of High Court, now even a Judge of High Court can be a chairperson of HSRC, which is State Human Rights Commission. And the last point, which is not visible, but I'll just mention it to you. It was earlier 5 years here. The Act states that the chairperson and members of NHRC should be there for 5 years. Now the term has been reduced to 3 years. So don't worry about it. Now the term is lessened and it's 3 years. Let's move on to the next act, which is Supreme Court Number of Judges Amendment Act 2019. Most of you have already heard about it and know about it, but there are certain important things that we still need to look into. The act increasing the number of judges from 30 to 33. So now it is 30. From 30 we are going to 33 plus 1 CJ, right? So excluding the Chief Justice of India. Reason for amendment, obviously because there's lot of pendency there in the Supreme Court right now. As of first day of June 2019, there are how many? These many cases which were pending in Supreme Court. And just because of this, we decided to increase the number of judges in the Supreme Court. It is not possible for the Chief Justice of India to constitute 5-judge bench on regular basis to hear questions of substantial question of law as to interpretation of the Constitution. So that is why they wanted more judges to be there in the Supreme Court so that they can have more division benches to hear more such cases. Let's move on to the next act. There are two acts with arbitration, so don't forget and don't confuse with them. We'll deal both of them. The first amendment act was of Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Act 2019. Now, in this Amendment Act, we first time talked about one body which was never talked about, and that is Arbitration Council of India. Now, this we have never talked about this body. First time we have introduced this body. The Act seeks to establish an independent body called Arbitration Council of India, ACI, for promotion of arbitration, mediation, conciliation, and other alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. Now, the ACI, who will be the members of ACI? Let's just look into it. Who will be the members of ACI? Will consist of a chairperson. Now, who will be the chairperson? A judge of Supreme Court or a judge of High Court or Chief Justice of High Court with an eminent person with expert in the knowledge in the field of arbitration. Probably someone who has dealt many international arbitration cases or has a very good knowledge has pertaining to arbitration. Other members will include eminent arbitration practitioners, academicians, experienced in arbitration, and government appointees. So these are the people who can become a chairperson. Now let's talk about the confidentiality of proceedings. The Act provides that all details of arbitration proceedings will be kept confidential except for the details of arbitral award. Arbitral award is basically what lastly they pronounce. वहाँ judgment नहीं बोलते हम. We talk about arbitral award. What is the award that the arbitration proceedings had finally given? So we talk about arbitral award. Now the disclosure of arbitral award will be made where it is necessary for implementing and enforcing the award. So what they're trying to say is this kind of ACI body होगी, ACI में members होंगे. जब decisions होगा कोई भी arbitration proceedings का काफी confidential, we'll keep it, and most of the time the award only would be disclosed, and that too where it is important for enforcing the award, it will be disclosed. Let's move on to the next act, which is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Amendment Act 2019. So a lot of you have already got the things wherein the minimum and maximum punishments in POSCO Act has been changed. A lot of punishments have been changed in POSCO Act after this amendment. So the minimum punishment have now been become the maximum punishment have been changed. So just take a look at it, and it basically deals with more stricter punishments. And what is child pornography? This is something I wanted to share the definition with you people. What is child pornography? Please see to it. Section 2A defines that child pornography as any visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a child, including a photograph, a video, a digital, or a computer generated image indistinguishable from an actual child and image, but is adapted. Even if it's adapted, matlab, even if the child's face is not visible, but it is adapted and created, altered, or any which ways you have just changed and modified it, is still child pornography and appear to depict a child. It should be clear that it's a child who is being depicted in it, in that visual depiction. So this is what child pornography is all about. Let's move on to the legislation 14, which is Code on Wages 2019. Now, what to say about Code of Wages? This issue has been always been there, and there are various laws. Not only these four laws that I'm going to mention, there are basically a lot of laws which deals with wages in different sections of different walks of professions. In every such walks of professions, we have various laws for the wages and regulating them. But this code basically deals with four acts. Let's see this. These are the four acts that it has changed. Payment of Wages Act 1936, Minimum Wages Act 1948, Payment of Bonus Act 1965, and Equal Remuneration Act 1976. These are the four acts that has been replaced by Code on Wages Act 2019. Reason for amendment देखते हैं क्यों था. Why we made an amendment and replaced a lot of four acts, say we changed it. To subsume 13 existing laws relating to workers' remuneration and enable the center to fix a minimum wage for the workers in unorganized sector. The Second National Commission on Labour, which submitted its report in June 2002, had recommended that the existing set of labour laws should be broadly amalgamated into these. So, जो existing laws है, we have lot of laws pertaining to labor. These shall be amalgamated into one such law, and that is industrial relations से related, wages से related, social security से related, safety and welfare and working conditions से related. Now, there's just one information that I wanted to give you people, and that is first National Commission on Labour was made in 1969. Please see to this. 1969. And which committee had mentioned about it? There is Bhutalingam committee argued for national floor wage, minimum floor wage एक होना चाहिए, and they had recommended it. So this is all about Code on Wages. Let's move on to the next act. Which is New Delhi International Arbitration and Center Act 2019. Don't confuse it with the act which I have mentioned earlier. The New Delhi International Arbitration Center Act 2019 is talking about international arbitration. To provide for establishment and incorporation of New Delhi International Arbitration Center for the purpose of creating independent and autonomous regime for institutionalized arbitration and for acquisition and transfer of undertakings under the, ये चीज आप प्लीज ध्यान रखिए, under the what? ICADR. Please see to this. ICADR. The Act declares New Delhi International Arbitration Center NDIAC is an institution of national importance. Now the Act seeks to transfer ICADR to central government. What we are trying to say is entire working of ICDR and NDAIC is being now being governed by central government. Earlier, ICDAR was only a registered society to promote the resolution of disputes through alternate dispute resolution methods. Upon notification by central government, all rights, title, and interest of ICDAR will be transferred to NDIAC, which we have named as New Delhi International Arbitration Center. So every kind of responsibilities which ICDAR was having is now being transferred to New Delhi International Arbitration Center. The members of NDIAC will hold office for, just look at this, for 3 years and will be eligible for reappointment. The retirement age for the chairperson is 70 years and for the other members it's 67 years. Other members, it is 67 years, chairperson, it is 70 years. So just remember this. Let's move on to the next act, which is the Banning of Unregulated Schemes Act 2019. The original law is basically banning of unregulated deposit schemes ordinance. An ordinance was also passed in to make effect of this, and the main object was to regulate unregulated deposit schemes. So, pehle let's see what is unregulated deposit schemes, because most of you don't know about this. The Act bans unregulated deposit schemes. A deposit taking scheme is defined as unregulated if it is taken for a business purpose and is not registered with the regulators listed in the Act. तो certain regulators are there, वहाँ पे अगर इनकी listing नहीं की गई है, then we call it unregulated deposit schemes. Now, what is deposit? Deposit is basically an amount of money received through an advance, loan, or any form with a promise to be returned with or without interest. So, this is what deposit is all about. So, basically, this entire act was talking about, and the main objective of it was to provide for a comprehensive mechanism to ban these unregulated deposit schemes other than the deposit schemes in ordinary course of business, and to protect the interest of आपको depositors के interest को secure करना है, and that is why we had made certain changes in this act. This act was consisting of 44 sections and 2 schedules. Let's come to the act which most of you is already knowing about, and I don't know how many of you are following this. Motor Vehicles Amendment Act 2019. Original law motor vehicles का 1988 का है. Please remember that the original law is of the Motor Vehicles Act 1988. The act provides for granting of licenses, as we all know. Now let's see the punishments which was enhanced in the Amendment Act, which is really important. And two other things that I want to mention, please listen very patiently about it. The Act seeks to address various issues such as road safety, third-party insurance, regulation of taxi aggregators, recall of unsafe vehicles, and compensation for victims in case of road accidents. Now, compensation kitna hona chahiye? The central government will develop a scheme for cashless treatment of road accident victims during the golden hour. What is central government saying? That it will develop a scheme for a cashless treatment of road accident victims during the golden hour. Now, what is this golden hour? If somebody asks you what is golden hour according to the Motor Vehicles Act, and you people are like, golden hour, we don't know about it. So let's just have a look at it. What is golden hour? Golden hour is that time, that lasting time following a traumatic injury during which there is a highest likelihood of preventing a death by providing a prompt medical care to anyone. So when you know that a death, there is any kind of death or by any kind of medical care at that very moment you can give to someone to just avoid that person's death, that is the golden hour. Remember this. So central government has said to develop a scheme for cashless treatment of road accident victims during the golden hour. Now, the central government may include a scheme for providing interim relief to the claimant seeking compensation under third party insurance. The Act increases the minimum compensation for hit and run cases in case of death from 25,000 to 2 lakh rupees. So, we've just increased it. And in case of grievous injury from 12,500 to 50,000. So, just remember this. And most of it is done. Golden hour thoda aap yaad rakhna, what is it? And it also have changes certain things on what is compulsory insurancing, who are good Samaritans who help the people, what is recalling of vehicles which are not up to mark or have been of older things, BS4 or something like that. Now, National Transportation Policy, they have mentioned in it. Road Safety Board, kya hone chahiye. Now, the Act increases the penalty for several offences. Now, there are a lot of offences under the Motor Vehicles Act. So, they have increased, offences like anything. The punishment has been increased in most of them. They have also defined taxi aggregators. Earlier, it was not defined. The Act defines aggregators as digital intermediaries or marketplaces which can be used for passengers to connect with the driver for transportation purposes. Now you understand what is taxi aggregators because we all are using it in India right now. Now let's come to the National Medical Commission Act 2019. This act seeks to regulate the medical education and practice in India. Original enactment जो repeal हुआ है, and that is Indian Medical Council Act 1956. The National Medical Commission will subsume Medical Council of India. So we have just renamed the body again. The new body's name is National Medical Commission. So this is the new one. Earlier it was Medical Council of India, and that is why the act was also of Indian Medical Council Act 1956, and now the act name is National Medical Commission Act 2019. So we have just renamed the body and given lot of powers to the center again. Will regulate medical education and practice in India under the Act. States will establish their respective state medical councils. Within 3 years, these councils will have roles similar to National Medical Council as well. There will be a uniform national eligibility cum entrance test for admissions in UG and PG courses for them, and the national exit test for final year UG students to license for practice. So there are certain changes. Basically, nomenclature is also changed, as well as the people who are now taking care of it is also changed. Let's move on to the Arms Amendment Act. This I've dealt very specifically in one of my sessions, so just go through that. What mostly I thought was important in this was what is organized crime syndicate, what is illicit trafficking, including smuggled firearms, what is use of firearms in rash and negligent manner, and what is celebratory gunfire. One of my sessions you'll find everything, the entire act has been defined. I think it's month of January or February or so where I have dealt with it very nicely, so just look into it. Let's move on to the last enactment, which is Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu Merger of Union Territories Act 2019. So this Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu, we have merged two UTs basically. Now the amendment of the constitution, the first schedule of the constitution mentions that the territories that come under the various states and UTs, that amends first schedule of the constitution. First schedule is being amended to merge these two UTs. Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. The measure of UT, the merged UT will now be named as Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. So the bigger name that we have, but there's one single UT now left. And how we do it, the president has to make certain regulations under Article 240 Clause 1. The president can make regulations for certain UTs, including the UTs of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. Now we call it as a single UT. And what we have done earlier, what used to happen for their representation in Lok Sabha, Each UT was given one seat. Now we are giving the entire UT, entire one UT after merging it, two seats. So it's almost the same. And just for your information, what is the jurisdiction, under which jurisdiction does the Dadra and Nagar Haveli UT and Daman and Diu UT now as merged UT come, under which court their jurisdiction comes? Under the Bombay High Court. So just remember it. The Act provides that jurisdiction of High Court of Bombay will continue to extend to this merged UT. Now, the Airports Economic Regulatory Authority Amendment Act 2019. When I talk about ERA, the two or three things is very important. First is, earlier ERA was having a lot of airports under his control, but after this amendment, ERA is trying to divest more powers to AAI, which is Airport Authority of India. And earlier, what was a major airport defined as? Let's look into it. A major airport earlier was a civilian airport with annual passenger traffic of over 15 lakh. This was known as a major airport prior to this amendment. After this amendment, a major airport is a civilian airport with annual passenger traffic over 35 lakhs. So that one is a major airport. So we just changed the definition of major airport basically. Earlier it was 15 lakh, and now we are saying that any annual passenger traffic of any airport, if it crosses the threshold of 35 lakh, is a major airport. Effect of amendment, currently there are 31 major airports, annual traffic whose is above 15 lakh, and ERA regulates the tariffs at 24 of these. Under the act, ERA will regulate 14 major airports, annual traffic of whose is above 35 lakh, and the remaining 10 airports will be governed by and regulated by AAI, which is Airport Authority of India. Reason for the amendment was because of the exponential growth in this sector, ERA is not able to manage or whatever. Therefore, too many airports come under the purview of ERA, and it will not be able to perform its functions efficiently. If the challenge of ERA is availability of limited resources, the question is whether the problem can be resolved by its jurisdiction. Basically, they are divesting its powers to AAI, and that is why this amendment was made. Now, the last enactment is the Prohibition of Electronic Cigarettes Production, Manufacture, Import, Sale, Transport, Distribution, Storage and Advertisement Act 2019. As we all know, e-cigarettes have been a lot in news these days. Usually e-cigarettes are what? They are basically a conventional tobacco products such as cigarettes, cigars or hookahs, but they take form of everyday items inside, just like a pen or a USB drive. So that is why we call it e-cigarette, because you use it putting it inside something called as a pen or a USB memory stick, and that is how you use an e-cigarette. Now, Section 3D of the Act defines electronic cigarette means any electronic device that heats a substance. Any electronic device that heats a substance with or without nicotine and flavors to create an aerosol for inhalation, and includes all forms of electronic nicotine delivery systems, heat, non-burn products also, e-hookahs also, and like devices by whatever named it may be called or whatever shape it may have, but it does not include any product licensed under Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So basically, these are the what can be an e-cigarette. These are the e-cigarettes. But if something is mentioned under Drugs and Cosmetics Act, because a lot of substances which is mentioned in Drugs and Cosmetics Act is used in the pharmaceutical industry. So anything which is mentioned in this act doesn't come under the purview of e-cigarettes. Rest all other electronic cigarettes can be something which can heat a substance or having a flavor, or you can have an inhalation form of which is there. So that is an e-cigarette. Now, the punishment that the new act is saying about it is it prohibits manufacture, trade, advertisement of e-cigarettes in India. Now, the e-cigarettes has actually come a long back, but now because we woke up and we realized that it's not something which is regulated, and that is why we are bringing a law relating to it. Any person who contravenes these provisions will be punishable with imprisonment for 1 year Please see this, 1 year or a fine up to rupees 1 lakh or both. No person is allowed to use any place for storage of e-cigarettes. So even if you store an e-cigarette, you can come under the purview of this act. If a person stores any stock of e-cigarettes, he will be punishable with imprisonment up to 6 months or a fine up to 50,000 rupees. So even storing such e-cigarettes, somebody just gave something to you and you just kept it. So most of the time, ignorance puts you in a lot of trouble. So imprisonment, even storing an e-cigarette can make you imprisoned for 6 months or a fine of rupees 50,000 or both. Unlike traditional cigarettes, e-cigarettes do not contain tobacco and therefore are not regulated. We already have an act regulating cigarettes, okay? So that act is Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Acts 2003. लेकिन e-cigarettes इसके purview में नहीं आता, and that is why we need to have an act for it to bring e-cigarettes under a statutory body and act so that we can make rules regarding it in India. So e-cigarettes do not contain tobacco and therefore are not regulated under this act, Tobacco Products Act 2003. India is a signatory to WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which is FCTC, which has developed in response to globalization of the tobacco epidemic. So what I'm trying to say is, e-cigarettes, it doesn't come under the purview of Tobacco Act because e-cigarettes doesn't use a tobacco, and that is why we need to have a regulation for the same. So I think this is today's session was all about the legislations of 2019. We'll soon discuss the most important legislations of 2020, and that's all from my side. You can keep updating yourself, watching other videos in case you have missed certain points, and let me know whatever your doubts are there or you have any queries. Please put it in the comment section below. We'll resolve all your doubts and queries, and keep studying. Let's move ahead, and I hope that if there's any doubt, just let me know personally. We'll just resolve all doubts of yours relating to any legislations of 2019. Thank you, and stay safe and stay happy, all of you.